At any given moment, only 3% of your total addressable market is actively looking to buy right now. And that other 97%, they're not ready today. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3-layer content framework that captures the 97% your ads never reach. And I built content strategies for over 200 plus companies across North America. Okay, so let's get into it. When you're doing ads, this is what most of founders that I speak to, and what you're probably doing right now is running meta ads to this 3%, that ready to buy. So you essentially skip this top of funnel and middle of funnel, and you assume everybody in your market is ready to make a purchasing decision now. But the problem with that is, like we just went through, not everybody's ready specifically today. Now, if you're a little more sophisticated, what you'll do is this concept of retargeting, right? So you'll try different variations of creatives, visuals, videos, text-based, whatever it is, and you'll go from the top down in terms of top of funnel ads, middle of funnel ads, and then bottom of funnel ads. But the problem with this is, and anyone who runs ads, you know this is like insanely expensive. So even though you're doing this and you have the bandwidth to do the entire total addressable market with content or paid content that's going to convert, what's very, very fascinating is you can do this with content. And this is where Hormozi was talking about that 97%. And this is where content does all the heavy lifting, not just from top of funnel to bottom of funnel. There's actually 5 stages of awareness, and that kind of breaks down that top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. So I'm going to use my personal company as an example. We do content marketing for B2B teams, specifically founder-led content on YouTube. So when we're mapping specific videos to awareness stages, you can see why your best GTM outbound campaigns still fail. So a lot of the companies that we work with and founders we work with, they're running cold email, they're running cold outbound, LinkedIn DMs, even sometimes paid advertisements. So we're talking at a really high level why your best outbound campaigns still fail. And that they don't even know that this might be a content marketing infrastructure problem. We're just talking about that specific unaware space. Then we'll get into their problem aware. Okay, so your go-to-market strategy is broken without this, and this is what we're calling a content marketing strategy. So in this video, we'll introduce that the problem exists because they don't have any content. And then we'll go down to solution aware. So now we say, okay, there's a content strategy that convert that no one's talking about. So now we're in the middle of the funnel, and now we're in solution aware because the solution is what we're positioning as content marketing. And then when we get into product or service aware, depending on what industry you're in, we can go even more specific. So steal this B2B content marketing strategy designed for SaaS founders. So this is somebody who's more warm. They've already understood why they were struggling with X, Y, and Z, what their problem was, now where their solution lies. And now they're looking at specific vendors, like for us as an example, how we build content marketing strategies for B2B SaaS founders. Like that's so specific and so bottom of funnel. And then when you get into ready to buy, this is when we're doing things like either client interviews, super big case studies, or we're perspective shifting, like why most videos agencies waste your time and what we do differently. So this is designed for someone not as a broad appeal. And look at the view counts. This is for somebody who's in the bottom of the funnel. This only got 519 views versus if you go to the top of the funnel, 1.3K. It's almost a 3x difference in terms of view counts. But instead of running paid advertisements at every step of the way, why don't you let your indexed content do all of that pre-selling for you? And when you do this content infrastructure, that's when we get people who say, I've been watching your stuff for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. And when they do that, they come to that first call pre-sold, ready to buy. They already understand your value. They don't have all these objections because it's handled in your content that we've done and built this ecosystem around. So if your current strategy is built for only the 3% and the other 97% is completely untouched, this is exactly what we help companies fix. We build done-for-you YouTube engines for B2B founders. We only take 2 hours of time per month. We come on site to you, and we handle everything from scripting, filming, editing, publishing, and tracking. Okay? The link to book a call with us is in the description below, and we can talk about what this would actually look like for your business specifically. So now let's get into the second layer and understanding that the modern buyer journey, what it actually looks like, because the ad solution that we just saw, the logic completely breaks when we uncover this. Buyers do not see one thing and decide. Research shows it takes up to 55 touch points before a purchase decision is made. A touch point is anything like a YouTube video, LinkedIn post, blog article, cold email, sales call. Every single interaction with your brand counts. The question is not whether your buyer is collecting touch points. They are. The question is, how many of those touch points belong to you versus your competitor? Okay, so let's step back into the board here. I want to come all the way down here to what we know as the buyer journey. Now, this used to be something that was linear, right? Customer searches, Google gives them blue links. Now you get your website, super easy, straightforward. They go down this linear funnel. But search, as everyone knows with AI, especially now, it's fragmented. Some people are going to Google, some go to AI platforms, some go to LinkedIn, some go to YouTube, then some get over to ChatGPT, or sometimes Perplexity refers them to LinkedIn, or sometimes Gemini refers them to Google. It's such a messy buyer journey now. So stuff is everywhere. The buyer journey is no longer linear. So how do you tell customers what they need to know? How do you build these touch points in a way that actually makes sense for their buyer journey to make a purchasing decision? Fantastic question. The answer is content, content, and content. Because the way we always describe this here for founders like yourself watching this is your brand lives down here. And then as you build this ecosystem or this foundational architecture of content, you look at written content, which is blogs. Then we can go into YouTube videos, LinkedIn posts. If you want to do Instagram and Facebook, depending on where your ICP lives, all of this, you're essentially building this digital real estate and being everywhere your ICP lives. Not everywhere, because you don't need to be on TikTok if your ICP doesn't live on TikTok, but you're building all of these like Monopoly. Think about it like Monopoly. You're putting all these little houses on all these different properties. So when somebody finally does land in this specific avenue, they have the content that helps answer those questions, or the content to help them pre-sell. Now, what's very interesting is when you do all the digital real estate in terms of content down here for that other 97% of people, AI will actually synthesize all it needs to know about each of your videos, your blog content, your LinkedIn posts, and it allows you to be recommended within AI search, which is really nice. Like we actually just came up on ChatGPT the other day, number 2, which was really nice for our own company. And even some of our clients, as we work for like 3-6 months onward, they will actually appear in AI results, which is a really nice bonus because you're not only are you building all this digital real estate, you're going right to the source, which is all these AI platforms, which is really, really sweet. Okay. Now, I want to give a reference with Drake. Iceman just came out. We're in Toronto right now. So I want to show you the power of digital real estate. Now, everyone knows Drake as the GOAT. Okay. This is the guy. Okay. He has over 210 songs. But if you include, what is it over here? His features, alternate versions, multi-release projects, he's up to almost 500 songs in the industry. Same thing with Babe Ruth. If anyone knows baseball, if anybody's a sports fan, how many times did Babe Ruth get a home run? A lot of times, but how many times did he strike out? He actually has the record, I believe, for the most strikeouts in history, but people only remember the hits. So even looking at Drake, he's got 210 tracks for all this digital real estate, but because he's at the top, he's got only 29 number 1 hits. I mean, that's actually a lot of hits, not only, but compared to his complete discography, which is 210 tracks, it's only like a 13% hit rate or a 14% hit rate. So when somebody finds a number 1 hit, if an artist gets a number 1 hit and then someone goes to their Spotify or to their Apple playlists or their profile and they got no other songs, guess what? They're on to the next artist. They're going to save the song and they're going to forget about it. However, when someone finds Drake, they find one of his 29 singles. They go, wow, this is really, really good. And then they come over and find, well, this guy's got over 200 tracks for me to just get inside his ecosystem and listen and build all of this rapport with this person. Think about how that works with your own brand. If you got no content, if you got one piece of content, or if you got ads, let's say ads are the hit. Ads are the hit. Okay, somebody just found you on an ad. Then they go over to your website. It looks like it was built with Claude in 6 hours. They're not going to convert. But however, if you've got 210 tracks, aka YouTube videos, blog posts, LinkedIn posts, a founder-led brand, great. All of these now hits or ads are going to convert much better because you have the ecosystem there to back it up and build all those touch points with that customer, with that prospect. So think about how this works for you in the age, especially of AI and content. Okay. Now, how do you find this stuff? This is a great question. How do you find intent? What we'll do, and I'm going to give you an example of how we did this for our personal company, is we will look at specific keywords and queries and manually go search these online. So I'm going to pull this up here. This is what we do for specific target keywords that we want to make content around. This helps create this ecosystem and all these touch points, but keep it anchored to what we actually service. So if you look at our target keywords, B2B content marketing, founder-led content, YouTube agency for B2B, personal branding strategy, content marketing agency. All of these have different levels of intent. So if you actually look like what is B2B marketing content, that's somebody who is looking and that is solution aware or problem aware in one of these buckets, because they think, okay, well, content marketing could probably help. What is that? Or how to map content types, right? Now we're going over here, product aware. They're looking at different stages of questions. 4 pillars of B2B content marketing, how to establish thought leadership for niche B2B industries. What we have here is a massive database of potential questions and content ideas that we can then put into that top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and then push people down into that ready to buy state. And what we'll do is we'll normally go manually search on ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's people also ask, because these are already proven queries that people are typing in. And we'll also do, if we look over here, we have specific short tail keywords or long tail keywords, so like YouTube SEO for B2B, YouTube strategy for B2B, B2B SaaS marketing, SaaS content marketing. Now, you don't have to do all this research, but this is what we do for clients, because honestly, if you don't have research in place, you're going to be creating content that nobody's actually searching for or gives a shit about. So we just make sure we validate it with that specific search traffic to make sure when we're posting stuff, it's actually going to land. And what's really interesting is this was our first year of when we went hard with content marketing. This is all organic. We did written content, so blogs and YouTube videos. We had a 793% traffic increase for the entire year. And we started in January, and you can see we immediately got a spike. So we went from 100, which granted is not a lot of visitors because the site was completely brand new. We just rebranded, new domain authority, everything. And we started posting content and immediately doubled the traffic. So we went from 100 to almost 200 in the first month. Then we went up to like 220, 30, 40, whatever that is. But then we got a little busy because we had some new clients come in the door. We were refining processes and we stopped posting content. And you can see what happened when we started doing that. Down, down, and down. We actually had the 3 months of decrease. And I said, okay, that's something that needs to be changed. And we started posting. So we did 2 blogs per week, so 8. And then we did 4 YouTube videos, and then traffic went up and up and up. So by the end of the year, we ended up tripling our traffic month over month-ish, all from organic content, which is really nice because we've taken all those queries that we found and we just put them into specific videos. Like if you look at YouTube, I'll pull it up here. So I just started this new personal brand, but if you look at our previous website or YouTube, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, YouTube. Look at all the different content pieces we made, like marketing funnel, go-to-market strategy broken without this, why your best GTM campaigns still fail, scale SaaS from zero with this B2B content strategy. Some do better than others, and that's just data to show you what to double down on as you do the next month of content. But look at all these different touch points that we have. Like if somebody finds one YouTube video and then they come over here, they could binge this whole stuff and then come into our sales funnel pre-sold. So that's what I want to touch on there with specifically making sure that you have touch points and you're getting into this fragmented era of search to make sure that your customers can find you and pre-sell to work with you. And like I said, if you want help building this for your founder-led brand, you have no idea where to start and you don't have that much time, this whole thing can be done within 3 hours and we'll handle everything from scripting ideas all the way to publishing. So use that link in the description below and we'll have a chat. So now let's talk about the third layer where the entire thing of this video actually clicks. And it's what separates content that just exists from content that actually does a job inside your revenue motion. So when your content is built around the real objections your buyers carry into every sales conversation, there's something that changes for you. Your ads, they'll start converting better because the prospect has already seen you. Or your cold emails, they'll land differently because your name is actually familiar in the space. And your discovery calls, they start to close faster because trust was built before anyone picked up the phone. That content is not replacing your page strategy. It is the warm layer underneath it that makes the page strategy work the way it was supposed to. Okay, so let's go back into the board. I want to show you here how we've actually mapped this to a specific client that worked in the revenue operations space or like GTM space. So this content funnel here from unaware, problem aware, blah, 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 blah. Every content type we make sure it maps to one of these specific stages, because when you're creating content around each of these stages, the language that you use needs to be different. For somebody who's unaware, the title needs to be broader. The language that we're using needs to be more tailored towards a beginner because they don't know anything yet. But versus somebody who's product aware, you can start using things where we're saying like B2B content marketing strategy for SaaS founders. The language and the nuance there is very important. So This is what we did for a client of ours, which was Bob Shu. He was from RevSync. We looked at his entire motion. We looked at the biggest things that he was hearing on sales calls or the biggest limiting beliefs his prospects were struggling with, and we created content around that. So for an unaware viewer, they're probably searching online for how do I get more reps to close more sales? But because he works in revenue infrastructure and operations, he knows that more reps doesn't mean more sales. And here's why. And that's when he starts to introduce that there's a broken layer of your actual technology infrastructure that's making your reps suck at what they do. There's no automations, there's no clean CRM, there's no follow-ups in place to help them track everything. So he's finding someone who's looking for more sales reps, but he wants to stop them in their tracks and say, this is not the way. So very high level there. More reps doesn't mean more sales. Then as somebody gets into his ecosystem, we're looking more into the problem-aware viewer. So now we're saying, okay, well, listen, if you're going to market with all your sales reps and they're sending cold emails or they're doing cold calls, whatever it is, here's why most of your emails die in spam and how to fix it. So now he's looking for someone who says, okay, we're sending cold emails, we're sending outbound, but it's going to spam and we can't actually make sales. Even if we scale our headcount and our sales reps, it doesn't matter because we can't even get in the inbox. So now he's going after a specific problem, which is cold emails going into spam, and exactly how to fix it. Perfect for problem aware. As we come over here to product aware, now we can say, okay, well, this prospect is probably using Clay to hyper personalize the cold emails. So now they've gotten out of they found their way into the inbox, but now, hey, maybe their inboxes or their emails aren't converting the way in which they do. So they're thinking, well, how do I personalize that? How do I make it better? How do I send this at scale? Great. How we use Clay to send personalized cold emails at scale. Now, this is a super targeted video because we're looking for someone who's using Clay, they're looking for hyper personalization, and they're sending cold emails. This is, even though it's got 700 views, which is pretty modest in my opinion, 700 views from a very detailed and targeted ICP, that's going to do wonders for your business because you don't want a bunch of how-to tutorial beginners who are looking how to do this for free. No, you want somebody who's in the weeds. They're using Clay. They can afford Clay first and foremost. They want to send hyper-personalized cold emails at scale. That means that they're not a freelancer looking to sign 1 or 2 clients to pay their rent. They're looking for companies that want to add an extra 50, 60, 70,000 MRR to their pipeline month over month. So that's why this video is very important for a product aware viewer. But then let's say, okay, now we understand that there's a solution out there. We have sat in the RevSync ecosystem for a bit, which is RevSync here. So now we're putting out a case study. This cold email strategy generated 500K in pipeline. That's a very bold claim. And Bob actually had a wicked case study where he did generate that much in 30 days. It was a really, really good campaign. And he just explains how he did it. So he's walking them through the solution and how he has done it at RevSync. So clients and prospects can see how he actually does his work and how other clients have gotten a result that is in their shoes. So you see how this is all piecing together here? And then lastly, this is where we get into that most aware viewer. This video was actually Bob explaining how he grows revenue and how he helps companies add more to their bottom line without adding headcount. And this is where we kind of broke down a lot of the different aspects that he does within his service at RevSync. So very, very important to get someone who's at the bottom of the funnel and how he's showing his exact framework so they can see, okay, this is how this guy is going to work for us and how he will work with us. Now, if you want to see exactly how we build content that captures the 97%, I've linked the video on the screen right now that breaks down the full production process we use for every client. So click that and keep watching. And if your current situation sounds a lot like what we covered today, and you just want to talk through what this content layer could look like for your business, the link to book a call with me is in the description below. So to sum it up, paid ads, they work, but they were never built to carry the whole GTM motion on their own. That content layer is what reaches your buyers that your ads never actually get to. Every month without it, that 97%, they're getting familiar with someone else in your space. But when that layer is in place for you, your ads convert harder, your outbound lands differently, and you're building an asset that compounds long after any paid campaign ends.